Hello everyone, Dragon Gaming here from Gaming here. Today is a very serious video. I rarely do these types of very serious videos, but I'll explain this here in just a couple seconds. The video we're going to watch, I've been putting that off for way too long, and if you look at one of my older videos, I stayed at, I think it was the Game Theorists news, Dragon Gaming's overworld that I mentioned this in the description. I'll be reacting to this video in September. Well, if you can see, it is September. So, I'm going to be reacting to it. It's also a Friday, so woohoo. But it is September, and I am promising to react to this. Also, in the US, there's a thing called National Suicide Prevention Week, which this year in 2018 is September 9th to September 15th. Full 7 days, which is from Sunday to Saturday. September is also, now I'm not sure if this is just a US thing or it's worldwide, but it's Suicide Prevention Month. Whether it's worldwide or just US, I'm not sure, but we're just going to consider it worldwide until I get more things. Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and just look at this. This is referring to the death of Ronnie Edwards.
The one who would be those moments. When I started this channel 7 years ago, it took me about a month to put together every new video. It's funny because even back then I couldn't produce videos fast enough to keep up with the YouTube algorithm. The more things change, the more they stay the same, right? Now, obviously, research and writing were a big hurdle in that, but the thing that took the most time was editing. I had no idea what I was doing. I was using the base video editor that came
with I've had too much of talking here.
Absolutely zero functionality and crashed literally every other day. I would lose just days worth of progress to a crash, a failed render, whatever. I couldn't tell you a keyframe from a crop factor. I was literally stop motion editing frame by frame, pixel by pixel to get things moving across the screen. No exaggeration. Thousands of Photoshop files with things just moved a pixel or two at a time. The long story short is that I wasn't very good and I wasn't very fast. And I learned pretty early on that if I wanted the channel to grow at all, that I needed to produce more videos faster. Enter Gaijin Goomba and Ronnie Edwards, two of my fellow creators who had reached out for help earlier that year. Goomba wanted to find more people to watch his show Gaijin Gamer, to which I responded, "Hey, Goomba, no one really knows or even understands how to spell Gaijin," so thus his show became Game Exchange. Ronnie, meanwhile, reached out to me after the third episode of Game Theory, which was on Illusion of Gaia, just because he was excited to talk to someone who was equally passionate about such an obscure SNES title. What was supposed to be an hour-long interview ended up lasting 3 hours for this podcast that he had just started. Funny enough, that was actually my first ever interview as a YouTuber. Both guys were passionate about fusing education with gaming, just like I was with Game Theory, and I realized that the three of us working together had a better likelihood of helping us grow than if we were all working separately. So I asked them to join the channel. To their credit, they said yes. They accepted my offer with little more than a handshake and a promise to deliver them their ad revenue at the end of every month. Times were different on YouTube back then. So with that, at a whopping 10,000 subscribers, Game Theory transformed into the Game Theorists. It became clear that Ronnie liked editing more than writing or hosting, and since, like I mentioned, I sucked at editing, he just focused most of his time on editing for Game Theory. We called it the Editing Dungeon. His first episode was The Cost of Minecraft Diamond Armor. I remember sitting there watching the first draft of that episode, and finally, for the first time, seeing Game Theory in the way that I had always envisioned it looking. His experience and skill with animation and illustration was able to accomplish things that in 2 years of working on
We're gonna look at that theory in a couple seconds.
But finally, Game Theory was looking the way that I had always envisioned it looking. It was doing things that I had wanted to do and just didn't have the skill to execute on. For the next 5 years, Ronnie was our go-to editor, a silent hand behind a huge number of the videos that you've seen on this channel, on Film Theory, and all the other Theorist channels. That's why it shatters my heart to tell you that on July 4th, Ronnie was found dead, a victim of suicide. We found out 2 days later. We had been communicating about a project that he was editing on. He went silent for a couple days, so we went to his apartment to check up on it, only to be met with a coroner's notice. The next day, Stephanie and I were in the hospital about to have our first baby. As you can imagine, it was an emotional weekend, and it's been an emotional roller coaster ever since. I've been wanting to do this video or say something for the last 2 weeks, but we wanted to hold off on a memorial until we were able to contact his family and get their permission to do it. But Ronnie had a really rocky relationship with his family, and so we've had no luck. And now with news slowly starting to get out that something may be wrong, we had no choice. Ronnie, in all the years that I knew him, dealt with demons that only he could understand. Scars left by a childhood that he kept under lock and key. Over the years, he would give me glimpses as to what he had gone through, but I never had a complete picture. What I can say is that he did his best to move on, to strike out on his own, to move beyond the trauma of his past, to take his mental health into his own hands and take his recovery seriously, one step at a time, every single day. That past also gave him a personality that was probably best described as an acquired taste. He was incredibly sharp and incredibly witty, but he also had this ability to cut through a person's facade in a way that was sometimes hilarious and sometimes a bit off-putting. Even after years of working with him, I would walk away from some conversations questioning whether I should be offended. Like, his sarcasm was so dry that there were times where it's like, was he joking? Or is he mad at me? Should I be offended right now? It's hard to tell sometimes. And it was that same personality that, understandably, sometimes got him into trouble with people who weren't familiar with that part of him, who didn't understand that that's the way he processed the world, that that was the way he dealt with social situations, that he was a person with dark periods, who had a tendency to sometimes lash out with anger. And to anyone who saw that side of him, I'm sorry. It wasn't an easy side to deal with, but that wasn't Ronnie. Ronnie wasn't an arrogant person. He was just socially unsure. He was unaware of how his behaviors would be perceived by others. And sorry that so few of you got to see the true Ronnie. Ronnie as he really was. The one who gave me a hug at the end of our Game Lab episode together. The one who took pride in his obscure internet trivia. The one who relished in every new dig that he would come up with for Kaijin Goomba. The one who would be so... Those moments were the true Ronnie. When he was unburdened by his past. When sunlight would peek through all the clouds. It would take a lot of patience to get there. A lot of long conversations and phone calls. But when he got there, it was great because you knew that it was honest. And it was genuine. It was a person who was free. Ronnie told me once in the early days of the channel's history that it was his goal for his animations to be recognized and for him to be influential as an artist. And if I were to tell him something right now, I would say, you did it. That he achieved that goal. That the Game Theory style, and anyone who has ever mimicked the Game Theory style, or anyone who has ever had a show on these channels, that was Ronnie's style. He was the person who created that. Over the years, we've had a lot of editors join the team because Lord knows it takes so long to make these episodes. More often than not, they say that they were inspired by Ronnie and the work that he had done on the show. So I hope that at some point, deep down, he knew the impact that he had and that he had achieved his goal. My one regret is that I never took the opportunity to tell him how proud I was of him. Of how much he had evolved as an artist. Of how sophisticated he had become in his own voice. And how elaborate his animations have gotten. His work hasn't just had an impact here on this channel. His work has had an impact on the internet at large. And I hope that he saw what we all here saw. That he was an incredibly talented artist from day one until the day that we lost him. I think it's just one of those things that your mind gravitates towards in these sorts of situations, right? What you could have done, what you could have said. So I think it really merits mentioning. We're all really busy every hour of every day around the clock. take the opportunity to tell people what you think, how much you appreciate them, how much you love them, how proud you are of them. Even if that person is really weird in the way that they take their compliments, like Ronnie often was, it'll stick. It'll land. And that compliment will really mean a lot. Any way you slice it, Ronnie's loss is a tragedy. Any loss like this is a tragedy. He was my friend, and he was the person who worked on this channel longer than anyone, second only to Stephanie and I. But I hope that through his tragic loss, there can be some good that comes out of this. That this video and the conversations that ensue in some way start to break down the stigmas around talking about mental health, social anxiety, and suicide. First and most importantly, remember, you are never alone. Never. Even if it feels like you have no one to talk to. Even if you're talking to someone and it feels like they can't say the right thing, it's okay. It's about you not having to carry the burden yourself. It's about you not having to go through this alone. Keep talking. Keep conversations open, because it is the single most important thing in these sorts of situations. It's about you being able to give voice to what's wrong, to what you can only experience without being judged. I know from doing fan meetups at events like VidCon that a lot of you who watch this channel go through these struggles, that you're dealing with social anxiety, with suicidal thoughts, with depression. And what I often hear from you in those stories is that this channel, this community, has helped bring you through the darkest of times, the lowest of lows, a breakup, a loss of a family member, whatever dark thoughts might be circulating through your head. And that is the biggest honor for me to hear, that me nerding out in my closet somehow gave you hope to continue on, to know that you weren't alone, that your mind processes things differently, and that that's okay, and that other people are out there just like you. But I also recognize that this is a battle that you have to fight every single day, and it's a battle that you have to win every single day. Ronnie fought that battle for a lot of days, and he won for a lot of days. But it only takes one loss. So don't be ashamed to have your voice be heard, to share your story out there with people who are ready and eager to listen to it. The Theorist community is a great place to start. Everyone here is so thoughtful and supportive and loving and caring. That's the beauty of social video in general, that it unites people. And at a time when social video and social media are constantly tearing each other apart, let's remember that it has positive to offer too. That it can unite people. That it can give people who feel like they have no one to listen to them someone who is there to listen. But also reach out in real life. There are countless numbers of services out there available to help you. Suicide hotlines, websites, therapists, people who are trained to help. I'll include links in the description, but just do a Google search. They are there. But most importantly of all, remember that you are important. You are valued, and that you are loved by more people than you could ever possibly think of. There's going to be a lot more to come on this channel when it comes to honoring Ronnie's memory. Look out for live streams that are going to be dedicated for suicide prevention charities. I know that Trailer Drake and Gaijin Goomba and some of the other theorists have things planned to honor Ronnie's memory. And in his memory, check out his show, Digressing and Side Questing. It's always one of my favorites. Honor his memory by living, most importantly of all, and talking openly and honestly with each other. That's most important. I'll miss you, buddy. I'll miss you and your lime green shirt and vest that you wore to literally every meeting that we had. Like butter. Like butter.
As Matthew had stated, don't be afraid to reach out. And we're going to actually now take a look at that video Oh, heck with it. We're gonna look at it anyway. How much does Minecraft Diamond Armor cost? And we're gonna see what Ronnie did.
Diamonds may be a gamer's best friend, but just how much money would Minecraft's diamond armor actually be worth? Pull out your loops, cause Game Theory's getting bejeweled.
Yeah. Let's look at the comments just yet.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Game Theory, where we mine the interwebs to craft mind-blowing episodes on your favorite video games. Mine the interwebs to craft episodes. God, terrible puns aside, if this week's episode looks a little different, it's because I'm on location scouting for information for an upcoming episode that may or may not be about Assassin's Creed. So today we're featuring the editing talents of fellow game theorist Ronnie Edwards, host of Digressing and Side Questing, another excellent video game over analysis show, also on this channel. If you haven't checked him out yet, watch his episode on the Wii U's gameplay. It's my favorite. I told him to find a happy balance between our two visual styles, so if you love it, great. If not, well, it'll all be over soon. Anyway, even if you live in a console gaming cave, chances are you've heard about the PC sensation Minecraft and the literal jewel in its crown, diamonds. These blue beauties are the prize doors that keep players glued to their screens for hours, digging deeper.
I'm gonna save that for another day. When he's not doing this. Yeah, and we're gonna look. When
I started this
keep Minecraft Mr. Matthew silent, and we are gonna look at this. I'm gonna look at all this. Digressing and side questing. We're gonna be looking at that. Yeah, I know, right? You do realize you're not alone. Now, we're gonna take a look at one of my videos which I've done on the subject. And not because we want to look at my videos, it's actually to demonstrate that I've covered the subject before. Garden. So it's somewhere between there and this 20 block challenge. Game Theorists news. I'm gonna be quiet.
And we're not gonna spend too much talking about.
Yeah. There you go. See, I have covered the subject, but yeah. Yeah. And go subscribe to the Game Theorist. And now, next video is not going to be as sad as this one was. It's going to be doing the instrumental version of Pick a Universe, or it's going to be We Are the Drowned, or it's going to be top 10 iconic Ninjago scenes, or the Princess Problem, and Bend the Unique Machine, stuff like that. It's going to do something related to that. There is going to be an Adventure Time review episode. I don't have my notes on me, so I couldn't really do it. And expect that to show face cam for once. Yeah, I am kind of sorry for all that. But I have... Oh, okay. Alright. So... Alright. So, like... So basically, as you see there, I've already done the finale countdown list. I've already watched that finale, and it's gonna really be sad. I'm gonna look at Bascom 94's video on his breakdown of the finale, and we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna look that in there and see if there's anything I've missed. I watched it from 7 o'clock and not full 6 o'clock, so there might be a lot of things I've missed. And yeah, so I hope everyone did enjoy this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. See you in the next one.